Welcome to the Catalyst Sales Podcast. This is a continuation of the series that started earlier this week, where we're focusing on specific topics, bringing people in who have either experience or expertise from a practical or research perspective onto the show to talk about specific topics. Today, I've got Jeff Noel on, and we're going to talk about mindset. Jeff, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. And I just want to let you know, Mike, I am so grateful to be on your show. I am standing next to Walt Disney World. Everything closed yesterday, and I've got the karma of the Disney University. I can see it right from here, and the Magic Kingdom cast member parking lot. And I'm on my bicycle, and I am ready to go.
Perfect. Jeff, what is mindset?
Mindset is our habitual attitude. In the 1930s, it was described as the habits of the mind formed by previous experience. Mindset hadn't been a word until the 1930s. So the way they phrased up this word mindset back in the 30s was habits of the mind formed by previous experience. And what I'm taking away from that is it's just our habits. It's the way we think on autopilot. It's our comfort zone. That's what mindset is.
Awesome. What are some common mistakes we make when thinking about mindset?
I think the biggest mistake that I have made is that in my younger years, I was not intentional about the sources and influences that formed my habits. And additionally, I was not being present nor motivated enough to improve. So to summarize what I just said, I think the world at large right now, if you look at COVID-19, we have not been intentional about a global pandemic. This is an incredible wake-up call for the entire world. And if we were more intentional and more present and more motivated, we would have been prepared for this, but we're not. And what we are experiencing right now is our mindset. So each of us are coming at this global wake-up call with our mindset. It's the habits of our attitude based from our previous experience. And so if we're panicked, it's because we haven't been intentional enough in strengthening our mindset, which is our attitude, our habitual attitude. And the way to be intentional about that, Mike, is attitude comes from a couple of places. There are sources of things that feed our habits. It's what we consume in writing, what we read, what we watch on TV or on the internet, social media, our friends, all of our goals, our values, all of these things, our behaviors, all of these things form our mindset, Mike. And if we are not intentional, we get what we get. If we are intentional, we can realize that we may have to thin some of the friends that we have because they are not adding value to our attitude. And we might not even be consciously aware of it. And that requires us to be present. And it also requires us to be mindful motivated. Without the motivation, without goals actually influence our mindset. And all of this is sort of this recipe for improving ourselves and raising the bar higher. That's our biggest mistake, I think, is keeping our bar too low. If I had to summarize what I've just said into one sentence, we set our bar too low because most others are setting their bar too low. The world's bar was far too low for a global pandemic, and we're realizing that right now.
So you talked a bit about intentionality, you talked a bit about attitude, and now you've just pulled this together and setting the bar too low. Why do we make these mistakes?
We make these mistakes for a couple of reasons, and one is what I call the herd mentality. If everybody is setting the bar low, meaning sort of average, status quo, conformity, don't rock the boat, just do what is sort of conventional wisdom. When everybody's doing that, it must be the right way to do it because everybody's doing it. And if we were to stray from that, we'd have to deal with these things: the fear of creating waves, the fear of being an outcast or perceived as a misfit or a crazy person, and then the doubts that comes with that. Like, I feel in my heart I want to do this, right? Your mindset, your attitude, your goals, you're driving that way, Mike, but you have this fear and this doubt, and it's just so much safer to live in the security of conformity and status quo. Don't rock the boat. You know, in the 08, 09 real estate collapse in America, the economic collapse, I remember thinking to myself, there was a layoff at Disney, and I was thinking to myself, this was a really creepy layoff. I'd been at Disney at that time 24 years. And for the first time in 24 years, I felt vulnerable. And I'm like, how can you devote your whole life to an organization, give your whole life, expect to work there for the rest of your life, and then be faced with a situation where that doesn't protect you? And in that moment, Mike, I thought, I felt really confident, but I didn't feel 100%. And that was creepy. I felt a bit betrayed, actually. And I thought, well, what would you do if you can't control that? What could you control? And I said, I'd have a plan B in case this ever happens again. And I had to create a mindset where I was willing to do something I had never done before. So that was a wake-up call. Those layoffs that didn't make any sense. In the 24 years prior, all the other layoffs had made sense, and it was professional, and you felt confident in where you stood. So I decided to start a business. And I'm like, well, how is that even going to happen? And what's it going to be? And I took the risk of starting a business while I was working full-time and being a parent and being a husband and being involved in the community. And it was a lot of extra work. But this goes back to where I talked about being present and mindful and motivated and having goals. And they say either don't quit your day job or quit and start and just go for it. And I felt of the two choices, quitting and starting something was not a great compromise. I thought there was some place in the middle. Keep steady income while I work on this thing. And for the first 6 years of my business, I didn't make a dime. I was spending money significantly over those 6 years and not making a dime. But I had this vision, this mindfulness, this motivation, and this presence to keep taking small and steady steps for the future. And that has led me to where I'm now. I've been retired from Disney after 30 years. I've been retired now for 5.5 years, doing much better financially, spiritually, emotionally than I had ever done, because I realized that being the captain of your own ship gives you so many more choices. It's hard work, harder than working for somebody, but the benefits outweigh that.
What are some of the other things that we can do to avoid these mistakes?
I think fundamentally, Mike, we have to establish a clear, concise, and compelling goal that can only be achieved by dramatically raising our standards. A goal so compelling that it trumps, why am I doing all this hard work? And we answer with, because our attitude, our mindset is worth defending. Like right now, the wake-up call, the way that we avoid this in the future is that we don't just sort of solve this and get out of it with the least amount of damage and then go back to business as normal. That's typically what happens with a wake-up call. Wake-up calls, I believe, are a gift, Mike. And the gift is you realize how unprepared you were for that situation, and you take action to never be caught in that situation again. That's one of the things that I would say is Evaluate where you're at right now. Why are you there, and what are you going to do about it? And can it be so compelling and so clear, and yet also so concise that it motivates you to change almost everything about your life? Your values stay the same, but the way that you demonstrate those is manifested in ways that you had never thought of. And the encouragement I would like to give, Mike, is that these are small changes that can happen just cumulatively. Slow and steady wins the race. I was writing at my desk this morning for about 2 hours, and we've been in our home for 30 years, and the desk that I have for 15 years was on the wall. I didn't want to put it in front of the window because I wanted to be able to look out the window. But when my desk was against the wall for 15 years, my back was to the window and it faces east. I missed every single sunrise because I was facing the wall. And one day I thought to myself, Jeff, what if you put this unconventional to block the window? Put the desk in front of the window. Now your chair is facing out the window. I've seen every sunrise when I've been at home, every sunrise for the last 15 years. Here's the thing. Same room, same desk. All I did was move the desk from one wall to the other. Changed everything. I think sometimes until we're forced to think about what could we do that it's not going to change us. Whatever change we make, Mike, isn't going to change us. We're not going to wake up tomorrow a different person. But if we have this clear, concise, compelling goal, and we stay at it, over time, we really transform ourselves.
How does this change when thinking about mindset in the context of working from home or remote work? We've got a number of folks. This is the first time they've had a chance to work from home. How does this change when thinking about it in the context of working from home or remote work?
All right. So I don't want to, I'm just going to be blunt and I'm going to be candid here. It shouldn't change anything. Period. Of course there's change but change is nothing new in our life. It's the constant fabric of life. So this change shouldn't be, as a leader, it's just another part of our life that was unpredictable, the way our life has always been. And if we haven't been intentional in setting up the structure and process in our personal life to handle this, that's why we're panicked right now, because we didn't have, that's why the world is panicked right now. We didn't have structure and process in place to handle these kind of worst case scenarios. And one of the reasons we do that is because we're medicated, we're entertained, we're distracted, and we don't even know. Our distractions are so distracting, we don't even realize how distracting they are. We get on the treadmill of life and we just go because that's what everybody's doing. And these wake-up calls go, holy crap, I am unprepared. So technically, this shouldn't change anything because change is the fabric of life.
Awesome. And what about it when you think about it in the context of internal teams? So your employees, people who work for you, they're part of your organization, the team that you have. Then thinking about customers, those who may be paying you, those outside of an organization, and then self. So from the perspective of teams, customers, and self.
I think in this case, in terms of team context, the biggest thing that leaders are going to have to be is a teacher. And hopefully the leader has been, if great leaders are already having been teachers. So I honestly, if you're a great leader, there really won't be much change. What's going to change are the logistics of how you get the work done. But the work is going to, you're always focused on taking care of each other. You're always focused on your customer. You're always focused on finding creative solutions to challenges that are small, medium, and big, challenges that you saw coming and challenges that you never saw coming. This is just, this business as unusual is actually business as usual. If we step back and stop listening to all the noise, we're just faced with a situation that we've never faced before. But if you do the inventory on all the things that you have accomplished, all the adversity that you've faced in your life, individually, as a team, for your customers, for your business, your list of successes is probably massive. And I would say lean on that, make sure your team is leaning on that, and never forget why you exist as a business, and work together to find those creative solutions. In the customer context, now is not the time to start fawning over your customers and communicating with them like crazy. The time to do that was well before this event happened. So if you find yourself thinking about your customers in a way that you hadn't, that's a sign that you weren't thinking about them the way that you should have been thinking about them before this event. So there's a wake-up call and an opportunity to just regroup on the whole thing and say, wow, yeah, it's kind of like your health. You know, you go to the doctor, or you have a heart attack, or some crazy thing happens, and you're like, yeah, man, I need to take care of myself. Of course, you need to take care of yourself. The wake-up call is not the time to realize it. It's well before that, but we're busy, distracted, medicated, entertained, unfocused, unintentional. Everybody's doing it. And this wake-up call is such a gift. In the context of self, Mike, I don't think anything changes except this. You are automatically giving yourself a grade for how prepared you are right now. We're all doing that. We're self-grading how prepared we are. And you should be getting an A. In a perfect world, we should be getting an A. That's mindset. That's a great mindset, is that we don't have answers to everything, but we realized in the past there were a lot of situations that we faced where we didn't have answers. But because of the structure and process in place, whether individually or as a team, we collectively found those answers. If Disney ran your life, this would all be, you'd be setting the bar so high on everything that right now, you'd still be operating at an excellent level. You would just be operating your business differently until the weather clears.
Jeff, this discussion has been awesome. And there are a couple of words that I just want to reinforce because I heard them a number of times throughout the discussion. Be intentional, have focus, understand that there's a lot of noise. That noise could be weather. It will change. Don't grade yourself on what you've done now. Use this as an opportunity to prepare yourself for the future. I really appreciate the time. If folks out there would like Jeff and I to continue this conversation, please let us know. Happy to have Jeff back on, and we'll have a bit more of a back and forth discussion. Jeff, we'll include links in the show notes to the podcast that you've put out there, and you've just wrapped up season 3 of If Disney Ran Your Life. We'll get that out in the show notes. Jeff, thanks for being a friend.
Mike, you're welcome. And I think this might also just serendipitously be perfect timing. We just ended season 3, which was the first season, the introduction to personal vibrancy and balance. And next Friday, the episodes come out every Friday, and there are 11 episodes in season 4. And season 4 is about mindset. It's about our attitude. I don't think there could have been a more perfect time for this podcast. And what I have actually done, I've been working on this podcast for a year now, and it's just a gift. The timing is perfect. And what happens in this podcast, Mike, is I issue a 72-hour challenge during each episode. And for the next episode, each one builds on the next. And if you've never listened to the podcast, the episode coming out of season 3 to go into season 4 on Friday is who's the most positive person you know. Think about that. If you want, check out the episode and we'll unpack the whole thing.
Jeff, thank you.
You're welcome.